Funny that they both picked the same names for their baby.
Yep.
All right, y'all are stealing my thunder here. Okay. Good afternoon and greetings, everyone. My name is Eric Stevens. I'm this year's president of the Rotary Club of Raleigh. And welcome to all our members and guests. We are the oldest civic club in North Carolina, and we do believe that what we have to offer here in 2020 is still very meaningful and important. We offer networking and relationships with other local professionals, the opportunity to provide meaningful service to vulnerable members of our community, interesting and informative programs like the one we're going to be having today, and fun social activities. Welcome to everyone. We're going to be hearing a little later on today from our guest, Christine Kushner with the Wake County School Board, who's going to be providing a reminder of the importance of public education and hopefully an update on their preparations for what will be a most interesting and unusual school year. But let's begin with the invocation and pledge from Richard Watkins.
Okay, thank you very much, Eric. The fruit of silence is prayer. The fruit of prayer is faith. The fruit of faith is love. The fruit of love is service. And the fruit of service is peace. Mother Teresa. So if you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber ways of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea.
Thank you very much. Before I turn it over to Linda for a presentation of guests, do we have any visitors with us today?
Well, we do have guests and visitors, correct?
Right. So if you want to go ahead and acknowledge our guests.
Yes. From Sugarland Rotary in Houston, we have their president, Todd Breton. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
It's okay.
Welcome. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
And then we have Nick, who is from Smith Anderson Law Firm. If you'd like to say hello, welcome to you.
Hello.
And then we have Aubrey. Would you like to say hello? We also have Aubrey here.
Aubrey, this is Nicolette. It's just under my daughter's name.
Oh, okay. Hey.
Yeah, that's why I said this was Nicolette earlier.
Oh, okay. Great. And then we have Hilda. If you would like to unmute yourself, Hilda Rugged is visiting today.
Hello, my name is Hilda.
Welcome, Hilda.
Thank you.
And then let's see, do we have, I believe we did have Jonica was going to be on from yeah, Jonica's trying to log on from our Southeast Raleigh satellite. We also have Tamara, if you would like to unmute yourself. She is a guest today.
Hi, you might hear echo. My name's Tamara Oyechide, and I'm actually a guest of Jonica's.
So nice to meet you.
Thank you
Welcome.
for having me.
Is there anybody that we have missed today? If so, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Linda. It's Mike Toddy. My wife, Denise Mullen, is here. She and Christine traveled with a bunch of girls back when our kids were at Ligon together. And since we're working at home, we thought we would come and share this together.
Hey, Denise, welcome.
Great to see you both.
Yes, thank you for joining us. I believe that is it, Richard.
Thank you very much. Who is next? Eric, is it back to you?
Great. Thank you so much. Welcome again to all of our guests, and thanks again to Sevelin. That your rendition of America the Beautiful is always lovely and stirring, and a great way to kind of get us started off on the right foot. So thank you. And now I'd like to ask all of you all to consider whether you can make a donation to our virtual cart bucket. You can either send Linda a note in the chat, or you can send her an email and just recognize that the need for Alzheimer's research continues, despite the fact that we can't, empty our pockets physically, like we do when we are meeting in person. Does anybody have any happy dollars they would like to share? You can, if so, you can let us know in the chat or raise your hand, and our ringmaster Valerie will call on you.
Raise my hands, but I have a happy dollar. It's Gina.
All right.
So I am starting, it's my first day of grade 17. So I am officially starting with my first day of school, grade 17. So very excited about being back to school.
17th grade was one of my favorites. You're gonna love it.
So it's for my master's in cybersecurity, and Linda, $5 to Happy Cards.
Thank you.
While we're waiting to see if anybody else has happy dollars, I have two very happy announcements that I would like to share with you all about two of the newest, youngest Rotarians. Pete and Jennifer Ciccone have a new baby that was born July 28th. And so we can say hello to Amelia Diane. And not to be outdone, Taylor McBain and Lauren also have a new baby. Their new baby was born a couple of days after Amelia Diane, and they decided to name her Amelia Ann. So we have two Amelias that just joined us, and we are looking for wonderful things for them over the coming years. So congratulations to Pete and Jennifer, to Taylor and Lauren. We're so excited for you all. And I don't know if all of you have had the chance that I have to see some of the pictures that have been circulating, but they are wonderful, beautiful babies. All right, next week, our speaker will be John Loyak. He is the Vice President of Global Business Services for the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. The week after that will be our District Governor, David Hayden, will be here. It's always a pleasure to have him joining us. We look forward to that. Next, I'm going to turn this over to Charles for an update on our mask sales fundraiser.
Thank you, President Eric. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to report we have sold all of the masks. So that means we have raised $700, if my math is correct, which I'll work with both Linda and our treasurer, President nominee Tom, and we'll get the money over to Overflowing Hands. This will feed, this amount of money will feed about 5 to 6 people for a month. So it's a great way to put some money back into the community, especially for people who live in food deserts and historically have relied on the school system for their only hot meals of the day. So thank you to everybody who bought a mask. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Charles. That's a really nice thing that we've managed to do. There are an awful lot of people that are that are food insecure, and you hate to see children that are food insecure. So every little bit that anybody can do to help is important and needed. And so thanks to everyone for that. Next, let me turn this over to Alex for an update on our wine tasting fundraiser.
Thanks, Eric. Hey, everybody. So I just wanted to, again, remind everybody about the fundraiser. We are holding a virtual wine and chocolate tasting via Zoom on August 20th. It's going to start at 5:30. Thinking it'll probably last about an hour or so. We are partnering with City Club. The tasting is going to be run by by Patrick Ewald, who is a level 3 sommelier with City Club. Also really sorry if you guys can hear my dog sneezing in the background. Linda sent out the evites, I believe last week. To date, I'm pretty sure I've only had about 30 replies. So please check your email. We want as many members to attend as possible. The RSVP deadline is tomorrow because we need to give City Club enough time to gather the materials. They're putting together these amazing looking packages with the wine and the chocolate. It's going to be fantastic. And so I just want to, I think right now I have about 20 people attending, including myself. I would love to see that number go up. We really need to raise money for the club. This is strictly a club fundraiser. We really need to raise the money so that we can continue giving back to the Raleigh community. So please check your inboxes, RSVP. It's going to be a great time. It's a perfect way to kind of have like a pre-Friday celebration and, just be able to hang out with the other members and drink some really fantastic wine and eat some really great chocolate. So if anybody has any questions, let me know. Again, the RSVP deadline is tomorrow. So please, please, please RSVP. I would love to see, I would love to see our numbers get a little bit higher for this one. Thanks.
All right, thanks a lot, Alex. And I'm hoping that maybe your dog will be joining us for the fundraiser, and we'll see if your dog's allergic to wine or not.
She might make an appearance.
All right. Thanks a lot. These virtual wine tastings are something that my wife and I have done with a couple of local wine shops, and it's really fun. It's a good time. For the price of your admission, you get, the 3 bottles of wine, not full size, but 3 kind of mid-size, like a half carafe size bottle of wine, and the chocolates, and lots of interesting information from a real tried and true sommelier. So, and you get to hang out with your friends. So lots to offer there. Thanks, Alex. And now let's hear from Gina and what's going on with service.
All right, greetings from your 17th grader. And Alex, I'm super excited about the wine event. So really looking forward to it. And I also, if you guys can't make the wine event, if it's something that maybe you have a conflict on your calendar, also just consider donating to the fundraiser if you can attend, or maybe buy a ticket for somebody that may be able to attend in your absence. So maybe like your wife or somebody who loves wine. So just something else to consider. For my report, Eric, I want to have everybody put on their calendar, which, if I have the date wrong again, probably. Yes, it says 2020. You know, don't mind me. I'm just starting school, but April 17th, 2021, we are having a district-wide service event. So what it is, it's David Hayden's vision to bring all of the Rotary clubs from around our district for one day of service. So get excited. We are starting in the planning phases of that. So that's April 17th. We're hoping you can bring out your loved ones, people in the community, and we're hoping to have this to be a huge event in addition to a fundraiser. So we are in the planning stages, and while you're thinking about the planning stages, onto the next slide for me, Valerie. We will be having our first district-wide planning meeting on August 19th. This one is 2020, so that's in next week's time. It's going to be at 5 o'clock. So David Hayden has already sent out an email to all of the club presidents, and hopefully that has trickled down to the different chairs and things like that. And we are going to kick it off in terms of this day of service. So I'll have Linda send out an invite to the club for you guys to participate if you would wish for this kind of first district-wide kickoff. As a reminder, if you don't know, our club is kind of leading the effort in the organization and planning of this. So get excited. I'm excited, and I think that's it for my report. Who knows if I have another slide or not, but thank you so much for your time. And if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or want to join the club, please contact me either via email or my phone number, which is usually on the bottom of my email signature line. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks to our well-educated 17th grader, Gina, for that report. And next, let's hear from Christy about membership.
Right. Hey, everyone. Quick update today. First, I want to thank everyone that came to our virtual happy hour about a week and a half ago. Had a lot of fun as usual. Good group of us. Talked about all the usual quarantine things, our favorite new shows, some upcoming travel plans and whatnot. So we'll keep you posted on the next one. And keep me posted on any member prospects you guys have. Anybody that's ever shown any interest in joining, or you think may be interested in hearing from me, I can send them an application. Also, the wine and chocolate event on the 20th. Invite some guests. Maybe have a friend that may be interested in attending the wine event and seeing how much fun we have at Rotary. So that is all for me today. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Christy. And just a few final announcements here, and then we'll get to our speaker. First of all, let's all wish a happy birthday to Charles King. His birthday is August the 14th, so happy birthday, Charles. And happy anniversary to Alex and Matt. Got an anniversary coming up on the 12th. Pete and Jennifer are going to celebrate their anniversary with young Amelia, and Matt and Elizabeth Cox have their anniversary on the 14th. So happy anniversary to all of you all. I'm sure you enjoyed wonderful, very warm weddings in August, the year you got married, and I hope you have great celebrations and memories of that time. All right. Now is the portion of our program where we get to hear from our speaker. And I am delighted that today we have Christine Kushner from the Wake County Board of Education. There are many, including probably myself, who would think of this as somewhat of a thankless position, who would ever want to take on this position where it's probably hard to do anything right and in the eyes of the parents who are so committed to their own children and sometimes have trouble seeing that, what the limitations are in trying to run a large school system like the Wake County Schools. But Christine has been a committed and enthusiastic member of the Board of Education since 2011. She served twice as chair. She is a resident here in Raleigh, and her background is she's a professional policy analyst and freelance writer. She's a product of the North Carolina Public Schools. She's a UNC Tar Heel, and she has a master's degree in public affairs from Princeton. So Wilson, I suppose you've heard that. And on a personal note, I have known Christine for many years in her role as a member of the Deliberate Literates Book Club, whose members also happen to include my wife, Susan. I'm not sure exactly how deliberate they are, but I can definitely vouch for the fact that they are very, very literate. And the other observation I will share about that group of people is that, this is a group of very smart women whose children are all of kind of similar ages, who many of them went through the Wake County school system at the same time. And I have been privy to many conversations among this group of people about their children's schooling, about schooling in general, about public education. And I can vouch for the fact that all of these people are very serious and passionate about public education. So we were very glad when Christine decided to run for the school board because we know how deeply she cares about public education and the importance of providing the best possible education for everyone in our community. So with that, I'm going to introduce Christine, and she has asked that we start before she begins her presentation with a short video. So here's the video, and then you'll hear from Christine Kushner.
There's so much I want to do. I want to make a difference. I want to create things. I want to change the world. Or at least the world around me.
Is the audio coming through?
Yes.
Okay.
When I look up in the sky, I think maybe I'll be the first person to walk on Mars. I love art. Any art. I like to paint. But I also like music too. Maybe I'll do both.
I want to work with people. Maybe a doctor or a teacher, I don't know. I just really like helping people.
Do I have to know what I want to do right now? Because I don't, but that kind of excites me. I'm ready for what lies ahead. I am ready for what lies ahead.
I'm ready for what lies ahead.
I'm ready for what lies ahead.
Our students are the dreamers, the doers, the adventurers. We're giving them the roadmap to guide them toward their dreams.
Thank you, Eric, for that introduction. Thanks for showing that video. I hope y'all can go back and watch it again and again because it is a summary of our Wake County Public School System. So thanks, Eric, again for inviting me here today. As y'all see, I'm not Ronnie Chatterji. I'm Christine Kushner. We're serving on the Board of Education, and I was really glad to be able to come and spend few moments with y'all this afternoon to talk about my favorite subject, which, as Eric already alluded to, is the Wake County Public School System and public education in general, because I truly think it reflects the Rotary's themes and mission of service above self and providing and opening opportunities. That's what public education does for our children. It provides opportunities and absolutely should for every child every day, and it's the foundation of our democratic society. So those are the missions that drive me to take this seemingly thankless job, but I get thanked a lot, of being on the Board of Education. And this has been the most, I have to say, most difficult time. And I've been through some difficult times on the board, whether it's student reassignment or some of the, if you remember 2009, 2011 board, some of the governance issues that have come to the school board, but this has really been a difficult time because there's not a straight path to making the decisions that we're faced with today. But I wanted to open up by talking about just our school system is the 15th largest in the country. We provide education to 162,000 students. We have 191 schools. We have enjoyed significant community support. Wake County is a community that supports its public schools. And I think to show for that, we have an excellent system that still has a lot of room for improvement. So I hope that I can tell y'all a few places where we need to advocate for public education across our community and our state. Right now, getting to this most difficult time to talk about what's on most people's mind, that's the reopening of schools. It has, since schools closed in the middle of March, as many of you know, and why that is such a big issue is that we, with 160,000 students to 20,000 employees, our school system affects a large portion of our county. Out of the 1 million people that live in Wake County, I would guess that about a third to 40% are affected by our school system on a day-to-day basis. So we have to make those decisions in a very deliberate way. And I apologize for the work that's going out in my backyard that just started up right now as I started talking. So I hope that doesn't get distracted. And this is going to be an opening of school unlike any other. Our teachers are used to so many patterns and processes that they aren't going to be able to do this year. So we have to unlearn everything we've learned and adopt a whole new set of protocols. So it's going to be truly a challenging start of the school year. And as I said, there's no clear answers. There's a lot of wrong answers. So we're trying to really, truly struggle to find the best path forward for our students. We've been focusing on from March to June. It was focusing on engaging our students, connecting with students, making sure that we finished the year strong. The remote learning that we did from March to June was built on the relationships that students already had with their teachers. So since June and looking toward reopening the school year, we've had to truly phase into thinking, how do you open a school year with new relationships? How do you bring in those kindergartners? How do we bring in the 6th graders who are moving to middle school? A very challenging time for all of adolescents. And how do we bring those 9th graders into high school so that they're on track to graduate in 4 years? We're challenged by special education students who really need face-to-face instruction, English language learners, those students who are learning to read, and our pre-K students, those 4- and 5-year-olds who have developmental issues that have been identified that we have in our pre-K programs. So it's been a lot of big, heavy lift to figure out how do we start that school year afresh. We've been focusing on the cleanliness and of our buildings, making sure that our HVAC systems are going to be up to par. And that has been a continuous process. I think one thing in the last 10 years that we have done well is work on our capital program, work on our renovations for older school buildings, as well as building new schools. So I thank the community for that consistent support that we've gotten on our school bonds. It's been critically important, and now with the COVID crisis and the need for really strong physical facilities, we're getting a return on that investment in school buildings. So I always have to thank the public for supporting our school bonds. Right now, we are not able to properly social distance in our schools with all of our students. We simply don't have the classroom space to be able to be 6 feet apart and have our staff and our students all come back in. That's, as we've seen that nationally. I think nationally or statewide, at least 60% of public school students and private and charter school students are starting remotely because we need to phase in and get those protocols in place. Here in Wake County, a full 50% of our students have opted for a completely remote experience for the coming school year. So we have 50% of our students are enrolled in the virtual academy, which has been a newly developed model that we're putting into place where students will be learning remotely at their homes for at least the first semester or for the entire year of the 2021 school year. Those students will be getting devices. Those who need internet access will be getting hotspots So we've been surging up and getting those systems in place. And we've also been trying to provide that professional development to teachers for them to be able to provide a rigorous education remotely. And again, this is going to be a significant lift for our teachers, for our students to get used to this new schooling. And so we are beginning, all of our students are beginning remote. Some, as I said, half are going to stay remote for the entire semester or school year. And then the other half of our students will be in what we're calling Plan B transition. So we're starting remotely, getting things in place, getting our teachers familiar and able to provide remote instruction for the coming year. And then we'll be phasing in students coming into the school building in cohorts. So we will have a third of all of the remaining students, the 50% that are in Plan B transition. They'll be divided into 3 cohorts, and they will be phasing into the building with staff who are able to come into the building. We have put safety and health as the top priority. We have to get that right before we reopen our buildings. So we're bringing in personal protective equipment, the PPE that we've all heard about, to our schools. That has been a huge focus, making sure our buildings have cleanliness and are getting the protocols in place to keep them clean, to make sure we're learning more from DHHS along the lines of the protocols we have to put into place if we do have anyone test positive for COVID. So it's been, again, a big shift in how we normally do business. And again, I think it's showed that we're trying to phase this in. We're going to phase in with those special populations that I mentioned earlier. I think we have to focus on the fact that for many students, remote learning will work effectively, and that this can be a short-term solution for many families who have medical issues at home, who might have some pre-existing conditions that make them more vulnerable to the virus. So they are more likely to have opted for remote learning for the coming year. We have staff who are very concerned about their health and safety. So many of our staff are seeking accommodations so that they can teach remotely from home. But we also have to recognize that there are many students for whom face-to-face instruction is key. Those who are those younger students, those students that need consistency, that might have special education needs, as well as those who are safer at school than they may be at home because their parent is an essential worker that needs their child to be in school. And I think that's one thing that the COVID crisis has exposed, is the reliance of our community on public schools for childcare, for food security. And I think it's showed that our schools don't have the resources to provide those services as robustly as our children need. We have worked really hard at getting some childcare systems in place. We're working with Wake Ed Partnership and the YMCA to have childcare centers so students can essentially work in pods. I think that's going to help us social distance and our students to have the space to continue their instruction with the support of folks who are at the Y, the Boys and Girls Club, and other community groups who are coming together in this FAST initiative. I'd be glad to share the link so you can see how Rotary can get involved and perhaps volunteer in some of the capacity, because we are looking for community partners to expand that program. We're looking and I've got questions from parents who said, well, if they can go to the Y, why can't they go to school? And the question again is the social distancing. We have to figure out how we can do those 3 W's that Dr. Cohen talks about with Governor Cooper in the briefings. We have to make sure we can stay that 3 to 6 feet apart, and that's difficult in our crowded schools. So the phasing in, the transitioning, the 3 cohorts are all to serve that social distancing so that we can help beat back this virus. I think we also have to acknowledge the mental health supports that are going to be needed when we get back into school. We have had an underfunding for a long time around school psychologists, school counselors, social workers, We are about half the national ratio that's recommended for our schools. So we have a need for increasing those professionals. And now with this crisis, that's even more a need. So I think we have to acknowledge that there's going to be a lot of grief and there's going to be a lot of stresses when our students and our staff come back to our school buildings. And that's something we're trying to prepare for as well. There's been no consensus on reopening our schools because I think there's, as I said, no clear path forward and the environment continues to change. We are working hard to get ready. We're reworking 6,000 bus routes so that we can socially distance on the bus and also get students there in the 3 cohorts I mentioned. Our child nutrition services are truly struggling to serve all the students who are eligible. That has been a big, exposed fragility of this crisis, that we have many children who are food insecure. Even with the best intentions, we're trying hard to get food to students and their families. We've served more than 1 million meals by June, so we've been working really hard, but it's also hard to reach students who don't have the transportation, as an example, to get to some of our food sites. We've been trying to use yellow buses to also provide some food service, so that's been a continuing challenge. Our teachers need support, and we're providing the professional development they need to have what they need in place. But again, it's a whole new way of teaching for so many of our teachers that there's a lot of anxiety among our teachers. So our schools need continued community support. We can't do this alone. In many communities where schools reopened, but the virus wasn't under control in the community, there have been added outbreaks. And I think that's been something that we're very concerned about. We want to make sure that we're opening schools in a way that's not going to cause more outbreaks. Some private schools that have opened up, one announced today that they were closing because they did find that they had a lot of students and staff test positive. So there's so many uncertainties, so many variables changing. We continue to get variable guidance from both the CDC and federal level, but also our DHHS and our state leaders, our public health leaders here in White County. And that guidance is changing because I think there are a lot of concerns about this highly contagious virus. We've been told that we might not be able to truly transition students back in the building until we have a 2-week decline in the trajectory of new cases. And if you've been looking at the numbers, those cases are going up instead of down. So there's a lot of concern about our community and its ability to drive down this virus. And we need to be working with our community so that we are partners in that, and that we don't make any decisions that drive up the virus's spread. So and other issues, I think we've also seen that our public schools, I would argue, have been underfunded for far too long. And so with this crisis, that also just enhances that fact that we have a Leandro decision, which since the late 70s has said that a free and sound basic public education is a constitutional right of every child every day in North Carolina. And a recent report by West Ed, which was a nonpartisan report that the legislature and governor put into play, that report came back saying there's $8 billion worth of unfunded need to provide the sound basic education that our children deserve. So that is one overall way of saying how underfunded public education is in North Carolina. I think Wake County stands apart, that we have been able to provide a strong education to our kids for a long time, but there are a lot of strains and stresses, not even before COVID. So we're not where we need to be. So I would hope that you will continue to support our public schools and support an overhaul in state finance. The state currently pays about 59% of our budget, and Wake County is about 30% of our budget. And it really used to be much higher. At the state portion used to be much higher, upwards of 70%. So the state has fallen behind in its obligation, and I'm hoping that we see a change in that in the coming decade, especially given how we've seen how important public schools are to our community. So there's a lot of issues of equity that our school system is another issue that we're trying hard to elevate to across the district. We have an Office of Equity Affairs that's been doing an innovative, wonderful work, and is becoming a model, I think, statewide, if not nationally, of how to support educators, teachers in our school buildings so that they can have be informed about their students and also provide a culturally sound and appropriate education to students across the district, so that they have diverse materials in their classrooms, that they have curriculum that is relevant to all students. So that's been an exciting development in the last 5 years, I think, with our school system as well. And I could talk about schools forever, because I think they, now more than ever, our public schools matter. They are critical to our community. They've been an economic engine for attracting business to Wake County. I appreciate that Greater Raleigh Chamber and other chambers have always underscored that our economic value, but I would also say that the most important thing is our civic value for the future of our kids, for opportunity, and for making sure that we reach every child every day. So that's the theme of our schools, and going forward, I hope continues to be the theme in our community. So I love answering questions. I love Q&A about schools because there's always fascinating ones that come out of groups like this. So Eric, I'm happy to answer any questions your members might have. And thanks again for having me.
Thank you so much, Christine, for that update on everything that you guys are going through. That's a huge amount to try to figure out. There are a couple of questions in the chat here, and I will leave it to Valerie, our ringmaster, to kind of ask you those, and then if anybody else has anything, we will open the floor.
Okay. First question I have here is from Richard Watkins. How have the number of students requesting free or reduced lunches and breakfast been affected by the joblessness due to the pandemic? Have the number of students increased?
That's a great question. We've not seen that final number for the school year because it hasn't started. About last year, I would guess it was around, overall, the rate was 35% roughly, higher in the elementary grades. But it had been increasing over the past 10 years. And I think with the coming month or two, if we see a lot of student families who are evicted from housing or who have lost their jobs, I would expect there's going to be an uptick in that number. And we have in place a pretty vigorous way of getting students signed up for free and reduced lunch, those who are eligible. And the last I heard, we were again trying to be very rigorous in getting those materials out to families. We used to mail them out to every family, and I think schools will be contacting every student to make sure we get those who are eligible.
Question from Eric Stevens. I've heard about an initiative in Wake County to purchase computers for students who otherwise could not participate in remote learning. Can you speak to that?
Yes, we have been giving out devices since April, and did a survey of all families, and we did another survey for this coming year, asking every family to fill out a tech survey and say what their needs would be. And so we have ordered between 10 and 12, it was 10 and 20,000 hotspots. Thanks Verizon and AT&T for reduced rates. We still, have rates, but we are putting out hotspots for families that need the Wi-Fi, as well as devices for parents and students who may only have one device, and have 3 children. So we're being very intentional about making sure that we don't give just one device per family, because they might have 3 students in their family who many people may have synchronous instruction at the same time. So we need to make sure that we have students who have, a one-to-one. We're moving as fast as we can to a one-to-one technology ratio, but that had been a 5-year goal we'd set for ourselves, and it got accelerated starting in March to accelerate to get to 1-to-1 as soon as possible. But we are hoping that we make sure that every student has access, and not just to a device, but to the internet and Wi-Fi to be able to access their schooling.
Okay. We do have a thank you from Reagan Weaver. Thank you for your service. You have an awesome grasp of the issues. Getting on to the questions, I'm going to take Wilson Heyman's first, and then I'll do Richard's second question. From Wilson, Christine, there's an op-ed piece in this morning's NNO suggesting that minority students are best served by state-funded grants for students to attend private schools. I assume instead of putting more money into the public schools. Do you have any comments or a position on that?
Yes, I did see that op-ed about the Opportunity Scholarship Program, and I think what it does is harken back, and I'll be very blunt about this, harken back to the segregation academies of the 50s. Both the charter school movement and the voucher movement in this country have become tools of resegregation. The data shows that, and I think it's the wrong direction for our country and for our state and our community. School choice began in the 90s as a way of saying they wanted to have innovation in public education. And while I think that we need to recognize where our public schools need to improve, there is no community using vouchers or charters that has scaled to provide equitable education for every child. It has led more to picking winners and losers, or those who, not serving every child. I think that is the goal of public education. It's not a business opportunity that some private schools might see these scholarships as. It is for public education needs to serve, must serve, has a constitutional duty to serve every child every day. So these choice models have, again, in my mind, taken us in the wrong direction. I think we need to, and they've taken money away from public education. We have no accountability for those dollars. A lot of those scholarships are used in schools that have not accredited curriculum. I'll leave it at that. Some of their, we have public systems, have public transparency, have public accountability. If you don't like the way the school board is running the schools, we have public ways of getting new school boards. So I think we need more public transparency and accountability to those dollars, because they are having an impact on underfunding public schools. And I think they're the wrong direction.
And thank you for that response. I agree with you personally, 100%. From Mary Moss, Durham has a capital campaign going to raise the one-to-one money. Is Wake County doing that?
We are currently using our capital funding and working with the county to fund the devices. And as of yet, we're able to provide those to students without any additional fees. I think some school districts are having to charge fees for those devices, but so far we're able to rely on our county partners. We're very appreciative to our county commissioners and county government for how strong partnership we've had during this crisis. So we've been able to use those capital funds, yes.
Okay. Are you reaching out to private philanthropy to aid in reaching those goals?
We've really reached out to private philanthropy on our child care initiatives more than, and for our food nutrition, and are looking to do that as well. I think right now we've been able to do the devices through some of the CARES Act funding and some of the, in our capital fund. So far so good, knock on wood. We won't, we can focus on the child nutrition, food security, and childcare for some of the private philanthropy asks we've been making.
Okay. And Sevelyn Smith has a question that I've been wondering as well about K-5 students and how affectionate they tend to be with their peers and teachers. How are we going to control the youngest in the system so that they do the social distancing?
That's a great question, and our teachers are understandably concerned about that, particularly our students with special education needs. Those teachers those students are very physical with their teachers, and vice versa. Teachers are very physical with those students, as well as the little ones, the pre-K and the kindergartners. So that is a great concern. We're trying to provide the professional development. We're going to have masks for students. We are requiring mask wearing for even the youngest students, because I think they need to be safe and learn those systems. I think children are a lot more resilient sometimes than we give them credit for. You get them a Black Panther or a Spider-Man or a Wonder Woman mask. You know, I think there are school districts that are trying to put in their curriculum making mask wearing a norm, because I think for now our community needs it to be a norm. So we are granting exceptions for students who perhaps are hearing impaired, as an example, and they need to be able to see their teacher, and they need to be able for their teacher to see them, to see visual and see mouth movements. We're working with other special education kids who may have issues with sensory issues where they cannot wear a mask. So we are ordering special PPE, the face coverings that are clear. I don't know if they're plexiglass, but there'll be a clear plastic that also goes under the chin so that they will be not just face guards, but also provide the mouth covering for the respiratory droplets that are the threat from this virus. So we are trying to get alternative PPE for those students, but trying to make it part of the norm and the protocol that is needed to go to school. But it is, I don't think that's going to be easy, but I think it's something we have to embrace.
Eric, how are we doing on time?
I think it's still not quite 1:30, so I think we can take a couple more.
Okay. For parents who work during the day when the virtual classes are in session, are you doing anything to help meet this challenge?
Yes.
I'm sure it's even more challenging for parents who have more than one child.
Yeah, we've heard a lot from parents. My email box has been quite lively since March, as you can well imagine, and it's fascinating that it is about a third and a third. We have parents who do not want to come back to school till there's a vaccine that's scientifically proven. We have parents who want their kids back in school yesterday because they are working, and then the ones in the middle who want some blended learning, but they're cautious about going to school full time. So we have this FAST initiative with Wake Ed Partnership that is working with both public and private funders to get off-site childcare for students. And it's not just childcare, but it's going to be instructional support. We're going to be working with, you can probably think of them as pods, I guess, for childcare, so that if the parent has their student in that Plan B transition, they'll be in school 1 week, and then for 2 weeks they can be in a childcare center where they are in small groups, they're socially distanced, but they're going to have support for instructional needs and making sure they're getting their work done, they're able to go online and access the remote learning that is part of the Plan B transition. But we recognize fully that working parents are struggling with this crisis. They're struggling to work at home and have their children at home, so we're trying to do our part. We're starting with our staff. We can't open schools without teachers, so that childcare slots, we're working to secure them not just for our working families, but also for our teachers, so that we can get our teachers back in the building or remotely working effectively with students. But that's been a big lift, yes.
Okay. Question from Kevin Summers. COVID has shown that some employees can work effectively from home and others cannot. They lack the discipline to do so, and I sense that some students lack the skills and discipline to learn remotely, especially special needs students. How are we supporting these students?
Well, again, I think I agree. There are some students who will be fine with the remote learning in the coming year or 6 months, but there are others that need that face-to-face. So we're first providing professional development with our teachers. We're also the academic team has been working hard to have online resources for teachers so they can have that online curriculum so they're not reinventing the wheel, that getting more curriculum materials out there so teachers can rely on that. I think some of the students are going to need far more supports, and we're working, some we saw from March to June did not engage in instruction. So we're targeting those students who didn't engage from March to June to make sure that we get them off to a better start in the coming year.
Okay.
So some have been self-identified, I guess is what I'm, so we need to make sure that we're following up with those students.
Okay. There's a question about special ed teachers. Are we providing them with more full PPE than the regular teachers get? How are they getting different support?
That's my understanding, or work that we're focusing with this Plan B transition, that the highest needs students are indeed our pre-K students, as well as our students with special education needs in our regional program. So those are the students who are not able to be mainstreamed in the classroom with a special education need. Those are students in regional programs who are in contained programs because of their particular physical and educational needs. And those students, we've heard, just anecdotally, I've heard most from those families that they want their students back in face-to-face instruction. And I've also heard more from our special education teachers that they are very anxious about returning to their classroom physically. So that is a high need of focus for our, Karen Hamilton is our Assistant Superintendent of Special Education. I trust her judgment. She's been a phenomenal leader of our special education programs, and so she's been very deliberate and intentional. We had hoped to get those regional programs back in the building on September 8th. We pushed back that date, I think, because we simply are not ready with that PPE and other protocols for health and safety. So that has to come first, and but we still will focus on phasing those students in before other students, because I think they need to be in the classroom.
Okay, last question from Robin. She starts off with thanks for being with us and for all that you're doing under such difficult circumstances.
See, it's not thankless. I told you, Eric.
How likely do you think it is that elementary schools will be back in person this school year? My granddaughters, 5 and 7, want to know.
Oh, well, I hate to say I don't know then, but I think it depends on the community. It depends on how Wake County and North Carolina squash this virus. We need help from our community to get that trajectory down, to get the rate of infection down, so that we can reopen our schools. We are working hard. I think we as school system have to be community partners. We got to get our stuff together and get it in place, but we need community support. We need active community participation in protecting our kids and protecting against the spread of the virus. So I'm hopeful that by the end of first quarter, our students will be back in the class. I would love for them to go back tomorrow, but we can't, because we can't socially distance and be safe, and given the rates. So we just need to go toward that date to get them back in there, hopefully by the end of the quarter.
Thank you, Christine.
Tough. It's not easy, but if we keep our kids first, we'll get there.
I agree. Thank you so much for your presentation.
So see, I love my job, Eric. I truly do. I love serving on the school board, because it's a deep sense of public service. So thank you for having me today.
Well, thank you for joining us. And I tell you, I remember one time seeing you in the grocery store, and you had a very passionate parent come up and bend your ear for a good long time, and you were so patient and it takes a special kind of person to do the work.
I'm well practiced in that. I'm well practiced. And I have to say, sometimes I go to a grocery store a little further from my house, but it's okay. It's a part of the job.
And all of us as parents sort of understand how important our own children are to us and how important education is to us. And so thank you for coming and sharing and telling us what is happening with the Wake County schools and giving us a preview of the upcoming semester. And we thank you and hope you have a great, I hope everything goes well in the coming weeks and months.
Thank you again.
All right. So with that, we will close our meeting as always with the four-way test. So now let us repeat in unison of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third,
will it build goodwill?
Better friendships? And fourth,
will it be
beneficial to all concerned?
Thanks, everybody. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
R-O-T-A-R-Y. That spells rotary. Very good.